ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिरिवोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यः साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्र्यचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ केनेषितं पतति प्रेषितं मनः केन प्राणः प्रथमः प्रैतियुक्तः केनेषितां वाचमिमां वदन्ति चक्षुश्रोत्रं कौ देवो युनक्ति। So, the Shishya is basically asking a question. And the question is, the Shishya must be very informed because the question is well directed. And we have divided this question into 4 questions. And the first question is that does the mind and other sense organs, all the limbs, itself move from object to object? Especially mind moves from object to object. That's kind of experience we have as such. That's the first thing. The second thing, is there someone who is behind the mind and making the mind think of something, prompting the mind to think? Third, does that person exercise any will, any intention, to make my mind think? Or fourth, is that entity a non-willing vastu in whose presence the mind behaves as it does? These are the 4 questions. And the first question we have answered also, and I'm repeating the answer. That does the mind itself move from object to object on its own? No. Why? Because basically they are the instruments. Mind, senses, all are instruments. It may be organ of actions or even the sense, the sense organs, whatever they are all instruments. Certain instruments are outer instruments, certain instruments are inner instruments. And or if we divide in another way, certain instruments are asadharana instruments. Asadharana means peculiar instruments. You have to use a particular tool for a particular knowledge. You have to use a particular tool for a particular action. If you want to walk, it's action. You will have to use legs. You cannot use hands. If you want to talk, you cannot use hands. You have to use this. So these are all peculiar, particular, Vishesha Karanam, particular organ of action or particular sense organ, whatever, to be utilized either for knowledge or for action. But behind all of them, basically the mind is there. Mind is there in seeing, mind is there in talking, supposedly. Mind is there in walking, talking, everywhere. Mind is there in smelling, mind is there in touching, mind is there in tasting. It's a sadharana karanam. And being karanam, definitely the tool, it must be in the hand of a karta. One who is a conscious entity must be utilizing it. Therefore, these instruments, or in fact, let's talk about it, just a mind. Mind cannot just move from one object to object, just on its own. There must be a person behind, for whose sake the mind moves around. So the first question is answered. It cannot. Second thing I would like to here add is, the body-mind sense complex is an assemblage, and definitely its constituents are meant to serve or to function for someone different from that assembly. It serves a purpose of someone who is different from the assembly. We have found any assembly. Assembly is equal to nothing but the various constituents, parts put together intelligently. And they are put together intelligently to serve a purpose. And to serve a purpose of someone who is distinct from that assembly. But Swamiji, and what kind of a person it is? It may be, let's say it may be another assembly. One assembly serves the purpose of another assembly. Like in your United States. Yes, Swamiji, you are sitting here, and why are you saying your United States? But here there is a mini truck. I have heard, I think one particular type of car, is it mini truck? What do you call? Which has, it's not a big truck but a small one. Whatever it may be. So maybe a car, let's say car, which is utilized to carry, all the, luggage and everything and goods, etc. Small one. Huh?
Pickup truck.
Pickup truck, yeah, okay, good. Thanks. Pickup truck. So pickup truck, it's an assembly. That assembly does not serve the purpose of, that assembly serves the purpose of another assembly. Goods, right? That's another assembly. Yeah, but that assembly serves the purpose of whom? Somebody third assembly. Ultimately that serves the purpose of whom? The subject, the conscious being. Please remember this. Please remember, I am again repeating you. Any assembly in the world, any assembly is ultimately for the purpose of the conscious entity which is distinct from the assembly. But how can you say conscious? Because the assembly we have already decided, it is inert. Where we have decided? In the class. How did you decide? 5 features I have already told you. Those 5 features, please remind yourself. Drishyatvat, Bhautikatvat, Gunavatvat, अथवा Sagunatvat, Vikaratvat, Agama Apayitvat. What is Tvat, Tvat, Tvat? It shows it shows a argument. It is called Hetu. Because it is Drishyam, because it is this, because it is all the time changing. All these 5 features we have decided through that not only world, even the body-mind sense complex, which is nothing but an assembly put together intelligently by Ishvara, is meant only for the conscious entity which is subject. And therefore all this mind, etc., any sense organs which is nothing but the assembly, they don't function on their own. They are functioning ultimately for the purpose of a conscious entity. Therefore, first question we have answered. Well, and then the second is there someone who is behind the mind, making the mind prompt? It is prompting. Do this, think, see. So it is all the time telling, smell. No, no, no. Yeah, you can say, why not? Why not? It is correct. Basically, a conscious entity is prompting the senses, conscious entity is prompting the organ of action. When a conscious entity prompts the hand, then only hand picks up. Conscious entity prompts the legs, then the legs starts walking. Legs do not start walking on their own. We have never seen. We have never seen that kind of a thing. So they are basically the conscious entity, the subject must be prompting. And then how does it prompt? All these questions come. Oh, but we can answer that. But unfortunately, we cannot go in that direction. Why? Because another word is there. Ishitam. Preshitam means prompting. Preshitam means prompting. The prompted mind. Preshitam manaha. Prompted mind. Then there is a prompter, etc. And we can definitely think about the subject which is prompter, etc. or impeller. And we can think of the mode of prompting also. It may be shouting loudly, it may be shouting, talking in a gentle voice and prompting, whatever it may be. But ultimately we can't go in that direction. We have to put a cross, because ultimately the word has been given in the question, Ishitam. So it's not merely Preshitam, it is Ishitam. Ishitam means willed by, desired by, intended by. So this subject basically desires, wills, and that thereby all the sense organs, mind, organ of action, and gross body get prompted. It just wills. Ishitam, wills. So the third question is, does that person exercise any will to make mind think? Yes, because word Ishitam is there, and therefore the subject wills, and thereby all the mind is prompted. Preshitam manaha, preshitam chakshuhu, preshitam shrotram, preshitaha pranaha. All are then prompted. For what? To become active and to perform varieties of activities. So this is the third question. And the fourth question, of course, now third and fourth question we are right now seeing. Basically, does the subject will the mind to do what it does? And we find that it must be willing, because it can be directed deliberately in a given track of thinking. Well, therefore, there must be someone who wills, who desires, and thereby mind goes in a particular direction. Takes a decision, or it may do something else. It may contemplate whatever. So, depending upon the will of the subject, this mind does a well-directed activity. So, even the senses also you will find, eyes can see anything, but basically eyes is looking for something. Means there is a subject, a conscious being, who actually wills, and thereby the eyes are prompted to see a particular thing, right? We are seeing that even the eyes also do a well-directed activity, not only mind, all the sense organ, even organ of action also. It can pick up this thing also, and it can pick up this thing also. But at given point, at a given time, hand picks up this, and 1,000 other things are there, it doesn't pick up. Means what? They are prompted. The hand is prompted for doing a well-directed activity of picking up just a pen. So, we have decided now the subject, has a desire. It wills for all the assembly and the different components of the assembly for doing a well-directed activity. Okay. Now, if you think that, basically the mind the subject wills. Now, to have the will on the part of subject, the subject should have its own mind, right? Because to make the mind prompted in a given direction, subject wills, which is distinct from the mind. That is now clear, because the mind is a part of assemblage, and therefore definitely the subject, which is conscious being, he wills, and thereby this mind goes in a particular direction, thinks a particular thing, etc. Then that subject also wills. How can it will? Even the willing also is a thought. Therefore subject must have his own mind then. Subject must have its own mind. Then for that mind also you need another subject, which wills that this mind should will for other mind to function. Could you follow what I am saying? When you bring the mind which wills, then ultimately the subject which is distinct from that mind number 2 also should have a willing capacity, that subject. And that willing capacity only it will have when it will have a mind. Then this is how it will lead to one particular defect called anavastha dosha. So basically, even though we say the subject wills, thereby the senses, mind, organ of action, etc. do a particular activity, well-directed activity, prompted activity, etc. But that subject cannot really will. Because if you bring the will itself is a thought, it needs a mind, then you have to think of another mind, and for that mind to direct for willing, the subject also has to will again, and for that it needs another mind, etc. And that leads to anavastha. Infinite regression, it is called. Infinite regression. You cannot arrive at the truth. And therefore definitely the subject is there. A conscious being is there, distinct from the assembly. And but basically, and the assembly does all the components of the assembly do activity which is prompted activity. That's correct. But the subject basically subject does not will. That we have to accept. And therefore then how will you interpret now Ishitam? You said Ishitam indicates a will. Yeah. Ichchayam. And therefore it desires. Yeah. But we have to say, Bhashakara says, Kena Ishitam Swasannidhi Matrena Manaha eva Vishayeshu Patati. Swasannidhi Matrena. So the subject is one, while by whose mere presence, without a will, mind and senses, or even organs of action, function as such. But have you seen such an example? How can you say just it is present and everything gets prompted automatically and do their well-directed activity? Yeah, that's possible. How? So they give an example of a king. Please, this example, before I give you example, I will tell you it is in a limited sense. And I will show you the limitation. But let's say that the king by himself does not perform any task, but seated on that throne and wearing the crown, etc. And he makes the whole kingdom active. He makes the whole assembly of the ministers active. The whole administration functions. All are prompted. Well-directed activity. King sits just merely on the throne. King being king, present in the assembly or present in the kingdom, everything functions. Limited example, no? Don't think too much. I will tell you that. Now, let me tell you the limitation of this. Do you think that king does not desire? Definitely desires. He has that desire in his mind that let me rule the kingdom, let the ministers do the job, and therefore he is sitting every day, is being present there in the assembly. For that sake only, he does not go for holidays, Camp David, etc. He will be present all the time there, and therefore just in order to make them active. So they are prompted, but in his mind, even though he does not speak anything, In his mind there is a desire all should function properly. So a conscious being example is given here. But a king and this conscious being, they are not equal. They are not equal. And this is what I have given you when we were discussing about one means of knowledge called upamanam. I have told you, you have not seen basically a bison. And then I tell you it is like a buffalo of our Indian buffalo. So by giving an example of Indian buffalo, I was telling that bison is like that. And you got a knowledge also. Same way, now I am giving you the knowledge of Atma, or the conscious being, by just merely its presence. And it is there. And the whole assembly, various components of the assembly do a well-directed activity. Well, definitely king has a desire, and therefore king is not an exact example of for the Atma. Otherwise I need not study Vedanta, because Upamana itself, bison's knowledge I have got it, right? Just by example of what? By example of buffalo. Same way example of the king has served the purpose for giving you what? The knowledge of the subject. And therefore basically Upamana has give you indirect knowledge of the conscious being. Well, it's not correct that way, because it has then what does our Vedanta serve the purpose? Basically you have got the knowledge through Upamana, then you don't need Vedanta. Veda is an independent means of knowledge which gives you knowledge which cannot be gained by any other means of knowledge. And that will definitely, that definition of pramana serves the purpose when Upamana, whatever the example is given, will only applied in a limited sense. Cannot be applied totally. King and Atma cannot be equated totally. Please understand that. And therefore, king has a desire that he doesn't have even desire, he just sits, not that. He is a conscious being and he is a king, he is aware of that. He is a self-conscious being, he is aware of his duties and he is aware of the duty of others, ministers also. And he wish that all should function. If they don't function, minister will be told to resign. He will be pushed out. So if there is a desire. But the example is there that someone sits and everything gets prompted. Everything does well-directed activity. Okay. Now this is one example. Now as I told you, an example of a conscious being, that is king, has proved the limitation. So we take another example where there is even no desire. But if there is no desire, it will not be a conscious being. Yeah, no problem. But we'll give another example. A more germane example is that of a magnet. And well, in the presence of a magnet, the iron fillings become active and they rush towards the magnet. They do a well-directed activity. Each filling does the activity, prompted activity. The activity is created by what? Activity is created by the magnetic field, and a magnetic field is created by mere presence of the magnet. Magnet does not desire. It is just present. That's all. It is present and all the iron fillings do a well-directed activity. They are all prompted. Even the desire also is not there on the part of magnet, being inert. Please, could you follow that? And therefore, this is basically this example also we can take. Similarly, kena ishitam swasannidhi matrena manaha svavishayeshu patati. So is there something inside me which without any will on its part activates my mind to think of the various objects? What is the nature of that subject or the factor that is responsible for the mind to be mind? Right? Because mind does a job of thinking, mind does a job of contemplating, mind does all other functions. Whatever the functions they are there, they are all prompted functions. Therefore, mind is a mind because it does a specific type of activity. So that subject is what kind of a subject which even doesn't will, but by merely its present, mind becomes mind. Could you follow what I'm saying? What is that factor in whose presence the ears become ears. I mean, it does a job of well-directed activity. It does a job of listening. What is that factor? It's very, very important. The answer will be the answer of the Vedanta, of the teacher who is going to answer in the second mantra. Basically, so what is that factor? Well, in presence of which, even without a will, well, the eyes get prompted and function. Means eyes becomes eyes. Same way, mind becomes mind, prana becomes prana, and everything. And this is how we have to understand. The senses become senses, organs of actions become organs of action. This entity is just present, no will even, because to will, should have its independent mind. And then, and that subject, well, it prompts even this mind, right now this mind, for doing the activity. And it wills, then it should have its own mind. The mind, and then definitely this will lead to anavastha. So really it is this conscious being, it doesn't really will, it is merely present. And being present without willing, well, on its part, activates the mind, activates the senses, activates the organ of action, activates the even gross body, everything. So the capacity of the mind to perceive things implies the presence of consciousness. And so does the consciousness belong to the mind itself? That's our question. And science says yes. Consciousness, mind basically possesses the consciousness. Mind has a property. They don't say mind, I'm sorry. They say brain. Brain has a consciousness. The consciousness is an attribute of the brain. They don't accept mind. So, well, here we are asking on our own. So is the mind itself responsible for being conscious? Or is there any other principle that lights up the mind, making it capable of perception, knowing, desiring, willing, hearing, etc.? Is there a mind, any other principle which that lights up the eyes, lights up the ears, so that they see, they hear, etc., etc. And the same way, even prana also. So mind, senses, well, actually being put together, are meant to serve the purpose of someone who is outside. Who is outside them means who is distinct from them. And that must be, I am taking it directly now, it is that subject is a conscious entity. And of course I have given you the answer, because we have already decided the senses, mind, and the organs of action, the gross body, and the entire creation possess the 5 features, and therefore they are inert, and therefore basically, which is distinct from this is assembly. It serves the purpose of someone who must be conscious. Distinct from this assembly must be a conscious entity, because the assembly is an inert entity. It is put together, intelligently put together by a designer, that is Ishvara. And well, but we need not bring Ishvara here, but because Ishvara will not come. Ishvara may come in this Upanishad. Ishvara at all is not there at all. It is Tvampada Pradhana Upanishad. It just talks about the I. Anyway, so basically, it is anyone who has put together, but it serves a purpose of other than itself, and that other than itself will not be the assembly, because then assembly will serve the purpose of another assembly. Ultimately, it should serve a purpose of someone who is not assembly, who is not put together. Consciousness is definitely not put together. It is not a matter, or it is not inert, right? And therefore, I'm taking it right now that this assembly, which is here, which is inert, serves the purpose of one who is a conscious being. And it's in the presence of the conscious being or consciousness, whatever, that we have not decided yet. In the presence of that conscious being, just all the sense organs and organs of action, prana and the mind, all do the well-directed activity. They get prompted. So we have served we have given the meaning of both. Ishitam, Preshitam. Preshitam, prompted. Ishitam, willed by. But not willed by swasannidhi matrena. Just merely its presence. Okay. Kena prana prathama praiti yuktaha. Let's go ahead. United with whom does the prana perform its function? Breathing and other physiological activities. Praiti. Now, as I told you, E dhatu is there in the second conjugation. It gives a meaning of gacchati. Eti means gacchati. Here, praiti means methodically moves. With the pra upasarga had been added, so we give a little additional meaning, and that is which moves methodically. What moves methodically? Prana. Definitely it moves methodically, in and out. Rhythmatically it moves. So prathama prana means mukhya prana. So, well, mukhya prana, that is the breath. That's a mukhya prana. That breath that makes one alive. In fact, all this, we divide the prana into 5. Prana, apana, vyana, udana and saman. And, and then in that first prana is that breathing. Vyana means circulation, samana means digestion, and then apana means ejection, etc. All these things will be later. First thing is breathing. Yeah. If that is not there, where is the question of digestion, and where is the question of circulation, and where is the question of ejection? And therefore, that's how mukhya prana. The first thing in the physiological activity, the first thing is the breathing, going in and out of the prana. So that's a mukhya prana. So, and so prathama prana, and as such also prathama. This indicates what? There is a story in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, there is a story in Chandogya, and I think in Prashna Upanishad also, where through the story, they have established in the entire subtle body, they have established that prana is mukhya. Prana is jeshtaha, shreshtaha. That's how they say there in the Upanishad. Jeshtatvam and shreshtatvam of a prana. Jeshtatvam. In Jeshtatvam means it is eldest. In Gujarati also they have word Jet. Jet means, what Jet means what? The elder brother, etc. So here Jesht. Jesht means elder, eldest. It's a superlative degree. Jyayan is a comparative degree. Jyayan, Jeshtha, etc. Shreyan, Shrestha. Shreyan is a comparative degree. Shrestha is a superlative degree. Shrestha means most worthy. Well, so prana is Jeshtha and prana is Shrestha. For that, what is the story? The story is very simple. Well, it has been decided. Sometime it happens because the physical body functions, and therefore it's due to subtle body. Ultimately, everything is functioning here. It's due to subtle body. And so various components of the subtle body started feeling. They started the boasting. Because of me, this physical body is alive, and because of me, it is functioning, and this like that. And there was some kind of a quarrel when they sat on the dining table. Then all the sense organs and organ of action and the prana and everyone, they were eating food, and everyone was boasting. And ultimately it has been, a whole quarrel has gone to Brahmaji. And then Brahmaji, because he is a creator, he is a father. So quarrel has gone to father. The children were fighting and they went to father. Then Brahmaji said, do one thing. I allow every organ to go away from the body for 1 year. And when it goes away, and without that the body survives, that particular organ, if the body survives, well, it is not Jeshta, but it is not Sheshta. But suppose any particular organ which goes out, and without that now the body cannot survive, well, then that is Jeshta. And then every sense organ, they started going away. First, eye says, I will go, let me see. And then eyes have gone out. And once it went out, then after 1 year it came, he found the person was blind, but it is functioning. And then Like that years go went and the sense organ of touch, the organ of touch has gone, and organ of smell has gone, and organ of taste has gone. But everyone has gone, but it was surviving. Even organ of actions also one by one, hands have gone and legs have gone. Still the person was surviving. And therefore they felt that then, well, we are not the one by which if we are absent in the body, well, if the body will perish, it's not like that. Then prana says, okay, ultimately last is my turn. And prana is not, they say it before leaving it came into the center of the house and then tell everyone tata tata. And as it started going towards the door to move out, every organ was pulled out from its respective houses. Every sense organ of action was started, they were pulled. As the prana started walking from the central hall to the door, and then they said, no, please don't go. This is a story. So this is how the pranas Jeshtatvam, Shreshtatvam. 3 places, Prashnopanishad, Brihadaranyaka and Chandogya. Everywhere this story is there. That's how prana is what? Prathamaha, Mukhya. That is how it is Mukhya, without which nothing survives. So, Kena Kartra Yuktaha. Yuktaha has been used. So, Bhashyakara gives a meaning. Kena Kartra Yuktaha Prayuktaha Preritaha Prathamaha Panchavrityatmak Pranaha Swavishayam Prati Praiti Prakarshena Eti. Praiti means what? Pra plus eti. Prakarshena eti. Prakarshena gacchati. So, Kena Kartra. So, united with Yuktaha. United with which principle means Preritaha. Prompted by which principle, and whose presence, well, definitely the Mukhya Prana, that is of 5-fold nature, methodically goes towards its function. So even the prana which has Jeshta and Shrestha functions in somebody's presence, otherwise they don't. So that methodical moving here and there, that is also, in and out, will be on account of that subject, that conscious entity who is just present there, and a prana gets prompted. So prana also is yuktaha, means preritaha, prompted prana. So then definitely that conscious being, which we have already decided, that conscious entity really doesn't prompt, it doesn't will, and yet just being present there, prana does a job of, the Mukhya Prana also does a job of going in and out. So this is how Kena Sata Yuktaha, being united with which existing principle, that Mukhya Prana, that is present. I have said it is present. So Kena Sata. Sata means existing principle. Being united with which existing principle, that Mukhya Prana is a prana and does its job. So prana becomes prana. Could you follow now? Prana, basically it is air. Air, when it enters and it functions, then only it is prana. Air can enter in a dead body also and it is there. And therefore, basically it is not prana. When air enters through the nose and start functioning, and in terms of breathing, going in and out, etc., well, then only it is called prana. Because it survives that way, the entire body. The life, etc., is connected to the prana, not connected to Atma. Well, we have discussed this in 2nd chapter. Atma has nothing to do with the life. No, we always connect all this. Atma has something to do with the life. We always connect. Because basically we have a tadatmya in the prana itself. And therefore we have tadatmya everywhere in the body. And so with the prana also. And therefore prana goes, therefore I go, etc. That's correct in one way, jiva goes. But both are different things. Basically body is alive. It's due to prana association. And when prana goes, basically the body becomes dead. So that is a connection. So going and coming and associating, dissociating is with the prana. Atma has nothing to do with the association and dissociation. What is all limitless already, where is a question of an association and dissociation? So anyway, the life of the body and the death of the body is all connected to prana, basically. That is breath. So prana becomes prana. It because of that entity, that subject, which is conscious entity. Mind becomes mind, I told you. Mind becomes mind, do a specific activity, well-directed activity, prompted activity. Chakshu becomes its own activity. Shrotra does its own job. All because this Maharaja is present there. Who is that Maharaja? You are. I am talking about you. And I am talking about me. All we are Maharajas. We are Maharajas. We are. We are emperors. And because of him, whose presence. And in nature is presence. It will not be absent. It will never be absent. So that's how they say, Kena Sata Yuktaha. It is just an existence. And therefore, Sat means existence. So it's by mere existence everything functions. Like mere presence of the king is sufficient in the kingdom. Mere presence of a chairman is sufficient in the company. Maybe 1,000 people are there, all are working because that person is present there. That's how it is. He doesn't prompt everybody. The chairman is a chairman. He doesn't. If he prompts every worker and all that, then he is not a chairman. Because for that he has to employ supervisors and whatever, And he need not do that job. He should be just present. By mere its presence, everything functions. So this conscious being is like this. So anyway, Kena Sata Yuktaha, being united with which, united means here, don't think it's some kind of an unique, so this conscious being and getting united with the prana. And therefore now it functions. It don't think that way. This Yuktaha means Preritaha. I have already told you. Yuktaha, Bhashakaras give it the meaning. Yuktaha, Prayuktaha, Preritaha. So basically, Atma is all the time there. Where is the question of now uniting? Uniting word will not be applicable for Atma in a primary sense. Never. Because, so, when does this clay unite with the pot? When does clay unite with the pot? We have to give all this meaning, otherwise it creates all problems. So how does or when does unite? It doesn't. So pot is because the clay is, and therefore just existence of the clay itself is enough. So is the existence of prana due to the existence of something else? That's also a question we can say. Kena prana prathama praitiyuktaha means, is the existence of prana is due to the existence of something else? Or, praiti, urdhvam gacchati, it goes up, prana goes up, and one is able to breathe out and in, etc. It's due to what? What is that principle? Kena ishitam imam vacham vadanti jana. So, impelled by whom do the people speak these words? Imam. Imam means this. This means what? Prasiddham. That which is well known. Is there something because of which people talk? Or is there, something? Is there entity who is in whose presence, the organ of speech does the job of what it does, etc. That kind of a question we can say. Well, and because, this, even though organ of words, organ of speech, organ of speech, utter words, but it's a conscious entity. Understand this. It's a conscious entity, and therefore definitely it is united with a conscious being. Its conscious being presence is very, very essential there. Otherwise, because I am utilizing right now my organ of speech in order that you will understand some words, etc. So it's a conscious entity, and therefore definitely the organ of speech also, Kena ishitam imam vacham vadanti, impelled by whom do the people speak these words. And for the organ of speech to be, of course, there should be certain knowledge involved because it is put together. We will not go into that, but ultimately anything which is put together presupposes knowledge, and therefore a common conscious principle is required for that. Okay. Chakshush Shrotram Kau Devo Yunakti. Which effulgent being makes the eyes and ears function? Okay. Particle U is there, right? And that shows a prasiddhi. Kau Devo Yunakti. Kaha, it is Kaha means what? Who or what? But here U is also there. U is shows a prasiddhi. When there must be a effulgent being, there must be a conscious being, there must be illuminating principle, by in presence of which the ears and eyes function. They do their own activity. And Devaha they have used. Devaha, from that we can translate it as a illumining principle. Because Div Dhatu is there. Div Dhatu is in sense of to illumine, to light up. So Devaha means which is illuminator, who lights up. So Dyotanatmakaha Devaha. They always give this kind of a meaning. Dyotanatmakaha. Div Dhatu is there, and it is in the sense of to light up. Dyotanam means lighting up. Atmakaha, that is the nature. Atma is a nature, Sarupa. So, that conscious being who's definitely a effulgent being, and whose presence this basically Chakshu and Shrotra does a job of seeing and hearing, etc. And who stands for Prasiddhi. It's well known. It's very well. How can you say it is well known? Because this is even eyes cannot see. Eyes cannot see. Even though it is a subtle body. Even this is a gross body. That's a golakam, eyeball. That doesn't say everyone knows. Because in dead body, you will find the eyes, etc. The eyeballs are there. Does not see anything. And even the inert, the subtle body also is not able to see. Subtle body is not able to see because it is inert. We have already decided that. And therefore, basically, there must be some effulgent being in whose presence they are able to do the job of illumining the sight. Illumining the objects of seeing and hearing. Well, this is the question. And now we'll have to go to the answer. It's a long answer. Several days. Shrotrasya shrotram manaso manoyate vacho havacham sau pranasya pranah chakshushash chakshurati muchyadhirah pretyasman loka amrita bhavanti. Teacher gives a targeted answer in one profound mantra. And this is, when this mantra is over, Kenopanisad is over, really speaking. Well, I am not going to, but this one mantra is a Kenopanisad. Rest of the mantras, from mantra 3 onwards to the end, is a elaboration of the second mantra. That's all. And this is so they give a Sankshepa Uttaram. And then this is how, that's a style of a Upanishad. That is, to give an answer in brief first and then to elaborate. So basically the answer of this Shishya's question is the Upanishad. And that is commented further on other mantras. So it defines Atma, of course. This is a definition of Atma here. And there are 3 things in this answer. First is, it tells about the nature of Atma. Second, it talks about the nature of Atma Jnanam. Third, it talks about the phalam or the result of Atma Jnanam also. All the 3 things are there. Swarupam of Atma, Jnanam of Atma, and phalam, the result of Atma Jnana. All the 3 things are there. We'll see that. Now, what is the essence of the answer? First we'll see, before I go into the exact mantra. So here also, like in here, in the question also we were having introduction to question. So here introduction to answer now, because very, very profound answer is given in which everything is covered. So let's see first the introduction. See, we have already decided that the principle which enlivens the body cannot be that material principle or cannot be the inert entity that we have decided already. Or it cannot be a achetana vastu. That is for sure. Because basically this one achetanam cannot make other achetana vastu chetanam. Suppose the body which has been enlivened or made sentient, that vastu, that subject which we were discussing, that subject is suppose a not conscious entity. It itself is a achetan vastu. If it is achetanam, that achetan vastu cannot make this achetan vastu chetanam. That's for sure. Achetan vastu, achetan subject cannot make this achetan body chetanam. That's what I want to convey. Inert thing cannot make an inert body sentient. Therefore, if body is inert, we have already decided how. If body is inert and you see it is a sentient, a conscious entity, then definitely that subject which is distinct from the body, well, must be what? Conscious entity. And if it is a conscious entity, well, I will not go by your word, Swami. I would like to know that the factors by which you decided that this is inert. Well, definitely if you say the subject, well, it is conscious entity, it should have a opposite features from the features of inert thing. Whatever the features you were having for deciding a inert entity, conscious entity should have a features which are opposite to that, right? And therefore we will have to see that first. And then we will decide, well, the subject is a conscious entity and that makes the body sentient, it is distinct from the body, etc., etc. And so let's decide that first. Okay. What was the first feature by which we decided the body is inert? You should tell me now. You should tell me, right? Anyway, first thing is drishyatvam, if you remember. Well, drishyatvam means what? It is an object. Object. Object of what? Object of knowledge. That's called drishyam. Drishyam means object of knowledge. So, any inert entity is an object of knowledge. That's how we have seen. The body is the object of a knowledge. I have told you that. And in fact, it is more intimate than any other object. You have a knowledge of body more than any object in the creation of your body. Every moment whatever is happening, you know in the body. Not in detail, but in general, you know. Therefore, you will say me, Swamiji, then why should I go to a doctor? Because if I know something is happening in the body, if I can see, I mean in general I am saying, in general. So body is an intimate object of your knowledge and well, definitely, so it is drishyam. Then now the subject must be what? It cannot be the object of knowledge. So it must be what? Subject. That's how I am using the word subject. Why I am using the word subject? Because it cannot be the object of knowledge. So the body is the object of knowledge and it has a drishyatvam. That's how I call it as an object of knowledge. Then the entity which makes it sentient, which makes the body sentient, must be the subject. It can never be objectified. That's all. Very important. What is the nature of the subject? That's later. First this much. That's enough. That it is clean. It is just a subject. It can never become object of knowledge. It can never become drishyam. Otherwise, once it falls into object of knowledge, it will become inert. And therefore, it is just a subject. That's the first. And as a subject, definitely it must be conscious. Because if this is inert, then this subject must be, object is object of knowledge, is inert, then subject must be what? Definitely conscious. Anyway, that is first thing. Then what is the second feature? Bhautikatvam is there in the inert entity. Well, in that class, Bhautikatvam. Body is made up of elements, 5 elements. Therefore, the subject, the conscious being must be made up of must not be made up of five elements. Abhautikatvam. Because opposite. And therefore it must not be made up of five elements. And that's correct. And therefore they may say anything. The scientists, poor people. Poor people in terms of Vedanta. Don't think they are poor. Their intellect is very, very sharp. But basically they always say consciousness is basically, they call it as an energy. And if you say energy, it is matter. Because matter and energy, they are interconverted. And therefore, for us, conscious is not an energy. Because for them, the ultimate truth of the creation is 4 or 5 types of energy. Or let's say energy. That is the truth of the creation, they will say. And if you say energy, we'll say it is matter. Because matter gets converted to energy gets converted to matter. And well, by this second answer, we say the subject is never a matter, never made up of 5 elements. That's enough. Means subject is not, the conscious being is not energy, is not a matter, etc. Well, it's a full stop. It is consciousness. That's all. Non-matter, non-energy principle. Then third, it is full of attributes. What? Inert vastu is full of attributes. Shabda, sparsha, rupa, rasa, gandha. And well, then the subject must be what? Distinct from that, right? Opposite to that. Means it doesn't have a sound. It doesn't have a sound, it doesn't have a touch. That's what the definition is. Kenopanisad definition, please remember. Ashabdam, asparsham, arupam, arasam, nityam, agandhavat. Therefore, an inert thing has these 5 gunas. Well, then this conscious being, the subject, has no gunas. It has no sound, no taste, no smell, no touch, nothing. Nirgunam. Inert is sagunam. And subject is nirguna. And fourth, well, inert thing is constantly changing, vikar. And well, definitely this subject is non-changing. Non-changing means what? Witness of changes. Yeah, non-changing means what? Which must be witness of changes. Then only, otherwise how will you know that there is changing? This question should be there. How will you know that there is change in the inert thing? But there must be some witness. And that witness must be a conscious being. And that conscious being, that is the subject, definitely must be free from what? Changes. Then only it can become witness. Anyway, so the fourth thing. And fifth thing is what? This creation that is inert, or the body that is inert, well, it is temporary. It comes and goes. And so, basically, avastha, in one avastha you will find this body, this gross body. In another avastha you find another body, etc., etc. And in third avastha you don't find any body, either subtle or gross, right? So they keep coming and going, temporary. And this conscious being, Atma, I cannot tell Atma, because all this we have to keep it as it is right now. And therefore, this conscious being, the subject, is what? Basically what? Avasthatraya Sakshi. We have to be witness of all the 3. Because otherwise, if you bind it, the subject, to a particular avastha, then that becomes temporary. If temporary means inert. And therefore, if you want to, don't give a title to the subject as temporary. Definitely, whatever is temporary, it must be witness of that. And therefore, the subject, which is distinct from this body, which makes the body sentient, etc., is also, does not go, does not come back. Big thing, very big thing, right? Temporary means we have told, agama apayitvam, agama apai. And this subject must be what? Doesn't go, doesn't come back. That's how it is always present. That's what we have decided. In whose presence everything functions. He is the presence. The subject is all the time present. After 20 years, present. Before 50 years, present. Balyadishvapi jagradadishu tatha sarvasvavasthasapi vyavruttasu anuvartamanam. This Dakshinamurti, which is Atma, I cannot remain. Anyway, so Dakshinamurti, which is Atma, all the time present. So the five features of the Atma must be what? Well, adrishyatvam, abhautikatvam, nirgunatvam, nirvikaratvam, and ana agama apaitvam. Ana, we have to put, you know, the word which begins with vowel. If you want to make a opposite word of that, you cannot write a. You should write an. That's how it is. Atma. If you want a opposite word of that, not a, you cannot put a because it begins with vowel a. Atma begins with vowel a. So you have to write an. Anatma. Same way agama paitvam. So you have to write anagama paitvam. Anagama paitvam. So this is how, so this conscious principle, the subject, in whose presence the mind, senses, prana, everything functions, do a prompted activity, well-directed activity, and for that matter the subject does not will, whose just presence is enough, and that subject is a conscious entity which makes the body sentient. Right? This is enough for today, and from tomorrow we'll enter into the verse. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.